Okay, friends, welcome back to the session once again. Today we are on the second day of this program on financial acumen and taxes. Uh, uh, Yesterday we covered a part of introduction. So, a quick summary as to what did we cover yesterday uh, and what we plan to do today. So, we started with we started with a basic question as to uh, what is purpose of a business. What is purpose of a business, and how business empires are built, and how the decisions are taken in the business. That is what we started our discussion with. And after that we discussed as to how to strengthen our understanding about finance. तो ये बात बड़े आसानी से समझ में आती है कि भाई फाइनेंस इज समथिंग that every one of us really need to have a very good hold on it for ensuring that we are able to achieve many things in our life, including being able to contribute to the deliberations of the top management. But then सवाल ये आया कि how to strengthen our understanding as far as the finance is concerned. And we realize that what we need for strengthening our understanding as far as finance is concerned, we just need number one to understand what is profit and loss statement. That is what we discussed. उसके बाद balance sheet is second thing that we need to understand. And third thing is profit and loss statement. And this is what we need to have a control on, or this is what we need to understand. अगर हमें ये समझ में आ जाए, if we understand as to what is P&L, what is balance sheet, and what is fund flow or the cash flow, and what purpose do they serve. Agar if you are able to understand this much, our journey towards becoming a good and strong person as far as finance is concerned becomes very easy. तो हमने प्रॉफिट एंड दिस इज व्हाट वी वर डिस्कसिंग. हियर आई वुड लाइक टू मेंशन व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ ऑल दीज स्टेटमेंट्स. अब सवाल ये है कि प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस स्टेटमेंट इज फाइन, बैलेंस शीट इज फाइन, कैश फ्लो एंड फंड फ्लो स्टेटमेंट्स आर आल्सो फाइन. इनकी सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है? व्हाई दीज थ्री स्टेटमेंट्स वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. व्हाई इट इज दैट ऑल द कंपनीज ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, पूरी दुनिया में जितनी भी कंपनीज हैं, all those companies have to compulsorily publish the P&L, balance sheet, and the fund flow and the cash flow statement particularly in their annual reports. Why do they have to do it? And that is because, and please pay attention, because in a business, in any business, anywhere in the world, other than the shareholder, there are many other stakeholders. So who are the other stakeholders other than the shareholders? The customers, suppliers, employees, government, society at large, nature, and nature is also a stakeholder in the business of a company. But of course, nature will not be able to read the financial statements. But our shareholders, our suppliers, our customers, our employees, or the government authorities with whom we file a lot of returns, they would definitely be interested in knowing as to how the company is doing. And how will they be able to figure out how is the company doing? They would be able to figure out only with the help of the P&L, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. They would be able to figure out as to how the company is doing. So what is the purpose of publishing the P&L, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement? The purpose of publishing P&L, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement is to provide enough and adequate information to all the stakeholders so that they are able to take well calculated, well thought out, economic or informed decisions in making investment in the company or in doing transactions with the company. That is the purpose of these financial statements. That is what we need to remember all the time. Then we discussed yesterday as to as to what is the other thing that we need to know for strengthening our understanding about finance. And this is what we discussed yesterday. We ought to know what is purpose of a business and how the decisions are taken in the business and how are the business empires built. This is what we discussed yesterday. So in summary, the purpose of any business, as we discussed yesterday, is to create value by making profit or make profit by creating value. Value creation, and this is where all of us need to pay attention. Value creation and risk management are two sides of the same coin called business. So everywhere, the role and responsibility of the management of any organization is, on one hand, to ensure that the business creates value, and on the other hand, the business also takes care of the risk. Why? Because risk and value creation are the two sides of the same coin. And please pay attention. It can happen. If a business is focusing only on value creation and not focusing on risk management, that business can come into trouble. And there are so many examples that all of you must be aware of. Kodak, once upon a time, a market leader as far as the cameras was concerned and the photo rolls are concerned. Where is Kodak today? Kodak is not in business at all. Why? Because they did focus on the value creation, but they forgot about the risk management. As a result of that, they are completely out of the business. Same is the case with Nokia. Same is the case with the bank called Lehman Brothers. Once upon a time, 100 years old, more than 100 years old bank, Lehman Brothers, is out of the business today. Why? Because they were only focusing on value creation, ignoring the risk management. And that is what we need to remember. All of us, every one of us in this program, got to constantly be aware that the purpose of a business is to create value on the one hand, and the other hand, the responsibility of the top management or the management of the business is to ensure that the risk is taken care of. Another classic example, how if the risk management is not taken care of, what can happen? I'm sure all of you must have heard of a bank called Barings Bank. Barings Bank was again a bank that existed for more than 100 years. But that Barings Bank one day that Barings Bank did not worry about the risk management. And as a result of what happened, one night, one rogue trader from the bank sat in front of his computer terminal and kept on betting and betting and betting and betting and betting. Every time he was betting, he was losing. Every time he increased the bet in anticipation that he will be able to make it up in the next round. And what happened? He kept on losing, and by the time the dawn happened, the bank was bankrupt. The bank was closed because that person had made so much of he has lost so much of money on behalf of the bank. And why did that happen? Because the bank did not take care of the risk management. A very simple thing. That's to how can you authorize one person to keep on betting just like this? And and the Barings Bank finally got closed, and we all know this. So risk management, friends, is the second aspect. And I'm sure you can understand that is one reason as to why we have this program. We have this program because we bank on our suppliers, we bank on our vendors for the continuous supply of the components and parts to us. And on the supply of those components and parts depends production of our vehicles, and therefore we need to ensure that any risk on the part of our suppliers or on the part of our vendors is monitored continuously, and before it becomes a no return point, we should be able to take appropriate step. And that is what we discussed yesterday. So purpose of a business: create value by making profit or make profit by creating value. At the same time, remembering the business, the coin, the business as a coin has got two sides: value creation and risk management. Both have to be taken care of. Then we looked at the P&L, and these are the questions that we understood. What is P&L and what does it indicate? How to figure it out as to whether it is a good P&L or the bad P&L, and also how to use the P&L for the purpose of formulation of the strategy. This is what we discussed yesterday, and I'm sure all of you would definitely remember. And then we were discussing two different perspectives from which the P&L can be understood. And P&L can be understood, as I mentioned, from two perspectives. Number one, from the perspective of the shareholders and the other stakeholders. जैसा कि मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले कहा कि हम कंपनियों को क्यों P&L पब्लिश करना होता है, क्यों बैलेंस शीट पब्लिश करनी होती है, क्यों कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट पब्लिश करना होता है, बिकॉज कंपनी has got many stakeholders, and all those stakeholders who are dealing with the company will like to take well-informed decisions, and they can take well-informed decisions only when they have requisite information available with them. And that is the reason why the companies are required to publish all these financial statements. So the first is first P&L that we can study, and we are studying, is from the perspective of the stakeholders, and that is what we were at yesterday. And the second perspective for studying the P&L is from the point of view of performance evaluation and decision making. So ऐसा नहीं है कि only the stakeholders are outside the company. Company itself is also a stakeholder in itself. So the company also needs to take decisions. Company also needs to find out as to how a particular division is doing, how a particular plant is doing, how a particular company is doing in case of a group of companies. So the second perspective is for performance evaluation and decision making. We were yesterday at this point, and we were looking at the profit and loss statement from the angle of financial reporting. And what we saw the revenue, and then we were discussing the expenses, and we covered as far as the expenses are concerned, the cost of material consumed and the changes in inventory. The third expense that you have here is employee benefits. Now, what does it comprise of? It comprises of all the expenses which are incurred by a company in respect of the employees. So उनके salaries, wages, allowances, provident fund, superannuation fund, gratuity, leave encashment, staff welfare. So every expense which is incurred by a company on its employees will be part of the employees benefit expenses. Then the next item that you see here is the finance cost. Finance cost is what? Finance cost, please pay attention. A company, कोई भी company दुनिया में will have to borrow money. Not necessary, it's not that it is compulsory that the company has to borrow mandatorily, but if you want to grow, then you need to many a times borrow capital from the banks, financial institutions and other lenders. तो दो तरह की बोरिंग करते हैं कंपनी, एक फॉर वर्किंग कैपिटल एंड सेकंड फॉर द प्रोजेक्ट्स, फॉर एक्सपेंशन, डाइवर्सिफिकेशन, एक्विजिशन. So whether you borrow for working capital or you borrow for expansion, diversification, modernization or whatever, or acquisition, when you borrow you pay interest. So whatever interest a company must have incurred in a particular year, where will come in the P&L? It will come as part of the finance cost. It will come as part of the finance cost, and this will come here. The next item that you see, as you can see on the P&L, is depreciation and amortization. What is depreciation? What is amortization? Will somebody like to answer this question? What is depreciation and what is amortization? How do you differentiate between these two? Anyone? Any one person? Any one participant? How do you differentiate between depreciation and amortization?
Depreciation is on your own assets, and amortization is assets which belongs to other, but you are paying as EMI, and it will be brought back as assets with some nominal value after 5 years or 3 years, after some defined period.
Okay. Very good, very good. So now my request to all of you, all the participants, so whenever you are raising a question or giving a response, just please mention your name so that I can address you appropriately once I know your name. So yeah.
This is Murari Barnwal.
Pardon me?
Thank you. Murari Barnwal.
Okay, thank you, Murari.
Thank you.
I hope it's okay if I call you by your first name.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you, Murari. Now please all of you pay attention. What difference between the depreciation and amortization? Now in any business anywhere in the world, we would use two kinds of fixed assets. Number one, tangible assets, and number two, intangible assets. Let us understand what is a tangible asset and what is an intangible asset. Tangible asset is one that I can touch, I can feel, and I can see. That is a tangible asset. So building, property, plant and equipment, computer, furniture, office equipment, aeroplane, train, yacht, ship. Now these are all examples of tangible assets. यानी कि I can touch them, I can feel them, and I can see them. Another category of the assets that we use in our business are known as intangible assets. So, what are intangible assets? Intangible assets are those assets that I cannot touch, I cannot feel, and I cannot see. So, for example, copyright, brand name, logo, software, goodwill, design, technical know-how, patent, technology. Now these are all examples of intangible assets. Now please remember, doesn't really matter whether an asset is tangible or intangible. Since I'm using those assets in my business, their value is going down every year, isn't it? Because I'm using them, so the value is going down with the passage of time. So reduction, and please pay attention, reduction in case of a tangible asset is known as depreciation. Reduction in case of intangible asset is known as amortization. And this is the difference between the depreciation and the amortization. Then what you see after the depreciation and the amortization expense, you see other expenses. Now, what is this other expense? This other expense, this nomenclature, other expense includes.
Good afternoon, sir. Shailesh here.
Yes,
I had
Shailesh.
just one question related to depreciation.
Please go ahead.
So many a times what we come across is that different companies apply different rules for depreciation. Even in between, we had read an article wherein it stated that Maruti is planning to depreciate all their assets in a limited period of 4 to 5 years, whereas some other companies depreciate it over a period of 10 years. And so just wanted to understand that how the companies select which depreciation policy they need to actually adapt.
Right.
And what are the repercussions of adapting all those different kind of policies?
Right. Okay. That's a good question, Shailesh. Now, as far as depreciation is concerned, a lot of people have a misconception that by charging more depreciation, you reduce your taxable profit and thereby you reduce your tax liability. Now, this is a myth and it is not correct at all. Because the depreciation are of two type, and just be attentive. Depreciation are of two type. One is as per the Companies Act 2013 and second is as per the Income Tax Act 1961. So ये दो एक्ट हैं, दो statutes हैं, दो laws हैं जिनके हिसाब से depreciation has to be charged by a company. Now please remember, as far as the financial reporting is concerned, that means what we are discussing, depreciation which is charged in the financial statement that we are discussing, profit and loss that we are discussing, has to be as per the Companies Act. So depreciation has to be as per the Companies Act. And Companies Act has a schedule given in the Companies Act. तो ये जो Companies Act उसमें पूरा schedule दिया हुआ है, और that is schedule of depreciation. Now this schedule talks about of different assets, different types of assets that a business can use. So the rule is, and it also gives life of those assets. So it gives lives of those assets, different kinds of assets, and what is the assumed life of those assets. So a company has to perforce follow the guidelines which are given in the Companies Act as far as charging of the depreciation is concerned. So एक asset है और उसकी life as per the Companies Act is 25 years, right? And 25 years is the life, and the value of the asset is, let's say, 100 crore. So how do you charge? How do you decide the amount of depreciation? 100 crore divided by 25 years, it comes to 4 crore. That means on this asset, you will charge a depreciation of 4 crore every year for next 25 years. And this is as per the Companies Act. Now, but at the same time, Companies Act also has given a leeway. Now, what is the leeway? The leeway is the company also gives liberty to companies, saying that in case for some reason, if a company is using an asset and company is of the view that the life of this machine is not as per what is given in the Companies Act, if according to the company life of the machine is either more than what is given in the Companies Act, or less than what it is given in the Companies Act. In that case, such a company can charge depreciation at a rate which is going to be different than what is prescribed in the Companies Act. But in that case, this company will have to make a full disclosure in the annual accounts. So the company will have to incorporate a note in the accounts saying that as per the Companies Act, the depreciation should be charged like this. However, the company is of the view that the life of the machine is more or less than what is prescribed under the Companies Act, and therefore company has charged more depreciation or less depreciation than what it would have calculated as per the Companies Act. And this is the note has to come, and it also has to mention that as a result of this change of policy by the company has charged extra depreciation of 50 lakhs or under depreciation of 25 lakh. So that disclosure has to come. With that disclosure, a company can change the depreciation that it would like to charge to the P&L. Only thing is, remember, it's not that every company and any company do so just like that. No, the company will have to the auditors will need to be convinced about it, because ultimately auditors have a responsibility to report about the operations of the company to the shareholders, and shareholders are the ones who appoint the auditors. So auditors need to be convinced. So if the company is of a conviction that the life prescribed by the Companies Act is different from what the company thinks, company can charge a different depreciation. It would need to talk to the auditors, convince them. If the auditors are convinced, then auditors would let that change in the depreciation happen. But what the company would need to do, company would need to make a disclosure as I have just mentioned to you. Now this is as far as the Companies Act is concerned. Now please remember, इसकी वजह से कंपनी की जो टैक्स लायबिलिटी है उस पर कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. इट डज नॉट मेक एनी डिफरेंस एज फार एज द टैक्स लायबिलिटी इज कंसर्न्ड. व्हाई? Because for the purpose of calculating the tax liability, the depreciation has to be calculated again. Meaning what? Meaning depreciation has to be, for the purpose of income tax liability, depreciation has to be calculated as per the provisions given in the Income Tax Act, and those provisions are different from the provisions which are given in the Companies Act. So please pay attention what you do. So जब आपको टैक्स लायबिलिटी कैलकुलेट करनी है कंपनी की, तो आप क्या करेंगे? आपने जो कंपनीज एक्ट के हिसाब से जो डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज किया, कंपनीज एक्ट के हिसाब से किया या अपने हिसाब से किया, वो जो डेप्रिसिएशन है वो आप प्रॉफिट में वापस ऐड कर देंगे, और ऐड करने के बाद जो प्रॉफिट आएगा उसमें से आप माइनस करेंगे डेप्रिसिएशन एज पर द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, एंड दिस इज हाउ यू विल कैलकुलेट द टैक्स लायबिलिटी ऑफ द कंपनी. So I hope that answer
तो
you.
सर जगलारी का कोई फायदा ही नहीं है फिर तो. मान लो अगर आपने कम ज्यादा डेप्रिसिएशन कर दिया,
हाँ,
but you are not saving any tax.
Yes.
Then there is no benefit actually. You are correcting your statements. That's all.
देखो, that is true, Neeraj. Because many times. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Rupesh, you are saying something.
Yeah. So wait a minute.
Yes, I want.
Okay. Yes, Rupesh.
Oh, sir, I think Rupesh Sinha would like to.
Yeah.
Actually, what I was thinking, I mean, what Neeraj has raised a point,
Huh.
that this gives the scope for some adjustment or some manipulation.
Huh.
But my question is, when you are reporting one profit to your shareholder, and based on that profit you are not able to pay to income tax, again you need to calculate. Then it is better, since ultimately your aim is to pay in tax also. So why not we always calculate our depreciation through Income Tax Act only? What
Okay.
is the advantage of calculating through the other, the 1961 Act
Yes.
of company account?
Yeah, Rupesh, again a very good question. For this, we need to understand that the purpose of depreciation under the Companies Act is different from the purpose of depreciation as per the Income Tax Act. What is the difference and what is the purpose? See, the purpose of charging depreciation as per the Companies Act is to spread out the cost of the asset over evenly over the life of the asset. So if the life of the asset is 25 years then the purpose of the Companies Act is that you should be able to spread this cost over 25 years. That is the purpose as far as the Companies Act is concerned. The purpose under the Income Tax Act is slightly different. Now, what is the purpose under the Income Tax Act? The purpose of depreciation under the Income Tax Act is to give you a tax benefit. And I'm sure you must be wondering as to how the tax benefit will happen. And please pay attention. The depreciation rate under the Companies Act, under the Companies Act are based on the life of the asset. And the depreciation under the Income Tax Act, the rates are prescribed. So the rates are prescribed, and usually, not usually, always the rate of depreciation under the Income Tax Act are higher than the applicable rate of depreciation under the Companies Act. इससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? इससे ये फर्क पड़ता है कि because you are allowed to charge higher depreciation under the Income Tax Act, and remember why the government allows you to charge higher depreciation under the Income Tax Act, because government wants to give encouragement to economic activity. So when a company is adding more assets, remember this company directly or indirectly is helping economy of the country, and therefore it is in the interest of the government that they must encourage industrialization. And that is why under the Income Tax Act, the purpose is to allow you to charge higher depreciation. But remember, your depreciation under the Income Tax Act is going to be higher, but it is going to be tapering off. Say for example, and just pay attention, in case of a plant and machinery, if the rate of depreciation, I'm just giving an example, rate of depreciation is 30%. Under the and the life of the asset is 10 years. So what will happen? Okay, I think I will explain it to you with the help of an example. I'm sure that will be much easier and better also for all of you. So okay, let me just give you this with the help of an example. Are you able to hear me, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So now I will just explain this to you with the help of a very simple example as to how this depreciation under the Companies Act and under the Income Tax Act will happen. Can you see an Excel sheet on your screen? Okay. Now just okay. So let's say value of the asset is 100 crore, and we are talking about Companies Act, and we're also talking about the Income Tax Act. Right, so of course the value will remain so for both. Now life of the asset is 10 years, and the life of the asset under the income tax also will remain 10 years only, because life of the company asset is what it is. It's not going to undergo change. So the rate of depreciation under the Companies Act will become 10%. I'm sure you can understand. So 100 divided by life, that is 10 years. So the amount, the rate of depreciation is 10% here. And under the Income Tax Act, because for different assets, the rate of depreciation under the Income Tax Act are also different. But let's say rate applicable in this case is 30%. So now what is going to happen is, let's say first year. So first year, how much will be the depreciation in the first year? The depreciation under the Companies Act in the first year will be 10 crore, and under the income tax it is going to be 30 crore, right? And then return down value. So return down value for the second year is going to be here 90 crores, and it is going to be here 70 crore, because 10 crore का depreciation यहाँ charge हो गया, 30 crore का depreciation यहाँ charge हो गया as per the Income Tax Act. So therefore this is the depreciation for year 1, Y1. And what will be the depreciation for year 2? So the depreciation for Y2 will be now under the Companies Act, let's say is going to be 10 crore for every year, because the value of the asset is 100 crore and life is 10 years. So every year it is going to be 10 crore, 10 crore, 10 crore. So depreciation will be 10 crore here. And under the Income Tax Act, the method is referred as return down value method. So under the Companies Act, the method that you use is known as SLM, straight line method. And under the income tax, the method that you use is return down value method. So the depreciation for the second year under the Income Tax Act will be now 30% of the return down value, which is 30% of the return down value, which is 21 crore. Now let's see what impact it will have on the profitability or on the computation of tax liability. So how will you calculate the tax? So let us say you have your EBITDA. Okay, let us say you have your PBT, profit before tax, 100 crore, or maybe I can use the same here only. So let us say अब कंपनी का जो प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स है वो कितना है, वो समझो 100 करोड़ 200 करोड़ है. तो 200 करोड़ यहाँ पे है और 200 करोड़ यहाँ पे है, और ये तो आपको दोबारा कैलकुलेट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. नाउ व्हाट यू विल डू टू दिस पीबीटी, प्लीज पे अटेंशन. एज आई सेड अर्लियर, रिमेंबर फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ इनकम टैक्स, Companies Act depreciation is irrelevant, and therefore what will you do? You will add the Companies Act depreciation, which is how much? 10. तो आपने वो 10 ऐड कर दिया. So now for the purpose of taxation, for the purpose of computing the tax liability, your profit is going to be 210. And then what you will do, less income tax depreciation, IT depreciation, and we are talking about the year one. So IT depreciation is how much? IT depreciation is 30 crore, and therefore your taxable profit will be 180 crore, and it is on this 180 crore you will pay the tax, assuming your tax rate is 25%. So your company will pay a tax of 25% of this. And this is the reason, friends, this is the reason, Rupesh, why companies charge depreciation as per the Companies Act and as per the Income Tax Act. So I hope that answers your query, Rupesh. Rupesh?
So, Rupesh na Jamshedpur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have understood. What you are saying is we have understood, but we just wanted to know what advantage company gets when ultimately, as per Income Tax Act, suppose the WDV is say 30%, the rate of depreciation is 30%. Then company can use 30% also, na? There is no harm as such.
No. Company cannot use Rupesh depreciation of 30% arbitrarily. Company can use the rate of depreciation of 30% or whatever based on the facts of the case. So ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके मन में आया और आपने कोई भी रेट लगा दिया, ऐसा नहीं है.
No, sir, I'm not saying. I'm saying if for say computer kind of item, as per Income Tax Act, it is 30%, and as per Company Act, it is 20%. Then, and you are saying that we are not binding to choose 20%. We can choose 30% also.
No, Rupesh, please pay attention. I am not saying that you are not bound. You are bound to charge the depreciation as per the Companies Act only for the purpose of financial reporting. In case if you have a reason to justify a different rate, then you can use it. but then you should be able to justify, give the justification, convince the auditors, then only you can do it. So this is a misnomer in most places, that depreciation is used for the purpose of manipulation of the accounts. It is not so. So that is, I hope that makes sense to you.
But can we not say, auditor, ki income tax act has allowed 30%, so that is why we are using 30%?
No, you can't say that actually. You can't say that.
We have to go by company, and in case of special year, we have to take permission.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Sir, one more doubt.
Yes.
One more. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please mention your name.
My name is Vidur.
Vidur. Okay, please go ahead, Vidur.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
So that depreciation is the amount what we are charging. We are spreading out the expenses over the period of a time, so that your P&L should not become weird for a given period. Correct?
Very good. Very good.
So what I'm saying, that is the depreciation amount has some relationship with what Capex company plans in the next financial year. Is there any correlation between that, or is there any impact? Point number one. And second thing is that you are saying amortization is an intangible asset, the value is coming down.
Yeah.
So the amortization term what we are using in our terminology or our industry is different than what you are updating us.
Right.
So just throw some light on the amortization.
Yes.
Amortization.
Yes. Okay. Very good. That's both questions, Vidur, that you asked are really good. Let me first answer your first question first. Is there any relationship between the depreciation and the future Capex plan? Okay, this is the question. Is that right, Vidur?
Yeah.
अब देखो या देखिए, अभी ऐसा है कि करंट ईयर के डेप्रिसिएशन का फ्यूचर के कैपेक्स प्लान से कोई रिलेशन नहीं है. क्यों रिलेशन नहीं है? क्योंकि यू विल चार्ज डेप्रिसिएशन ऑन एन एसेट that you have already acquired and you are using it in your business. So what assets you are going to acquire in future is not going to have any impact on your depreciation for the current year. Whenever you do these capexes, complete them, start using them for your business, then you start charging depreciation on those capexes in future. So the future depreciation amount is going to be higher. This is the answer to your first question.
Now the second question.
Okay, now second question. And that's a very good point that you have raised, Vidur. The point, only thing is that we need to understand that we are looking at how to read the financial statements from the perspective of shareholders and the other stakeholders. So that is the objective that we have. Now, amortization, the term amortization can be understood in three ways. Number one, that you have given finance to a supplier, and your understanding is the supplier does not have to give this money back to you. Instead of that, every time using this money, when he has bought some, created facilities to manufacture and supply component to you, so what will happen in future, this amount, let's say this amount is 1 crore. So this amount of 1 crore that you have given to your supplier क्या करेगा, फ्यूचर में जो आपको सप्लाईज देगा, उस सप्लाईज के अगेंस्ट में ये जो 1 करोड़ का आपने एडवांस दिया है उसको एडजस्ट करता रहेगा. That is one way of looking at the amortization, and I believe that is what your understanding is of amortization. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, very good. So that is one way of looking at the amortization. The second way of looking at the amortization is, please remember, when you take a loan and when you are repaying that loan, that is also known as amortization. So आपने कंपनी ने लोन लिया है और वो कंपनी टाइम टू टाइम EMI भर रही है, मंथली इंस्टॉलमेंट्स भर रही है, that process is also known as amortization. The third way of looking at amortization is from the point of view of financial reporting, and that is what we are discussing. So we were discussing about the depreciation and amortization. So I'm sure, Vidur, you are clear about the depreciation. Are you?
Depreciation I have clear, sir.
Absolutely.
The only thing is I'm having some confusion on the amortization part.
Okay.
That's the intangible asset and the definition what we are using for amortization in our industry.
Absolutely. Very good. So now नाउ लेट्स लुक एट amortization का मतलब क्या है ना? amortization का मतलब फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग. अब देखिए, जैसा कि मैंने पहले कहा, हम दो तरह की एसेट्स यूज करते हैं बिजनेस में. एक है टेंजिबल एसेट्स और एक है इनटेंजिबल एसेट्स. टेंजिबल एसेट्स कौन कौन सी हैं? टेंजिबल एसेट्स आर योर assets that you can touch, you can feel, you can see. So plant and machinery, building, compute, these are all tangible assets. Intangible assets कौन से हैं? पेटेंट है, डिज़ाइन है, टेक्निकल नो-हाउ है, राइट, टेक्नोलॉजी है, और लोगो है, ब्रांड नेम है, कॉपीराइट है. दीज आर ऑल intangible assets. Now your question is how in case of tangible asset amortization is charged. Am I right? Is that your question, Vidur? Okay,
so
good.
The basic understanding difference is that the way you are saying amortization is charged for intangible assets, the value is coming down and you are putting this charge to the
P&L. Yes.
But what we are saying is that amortization, the way you earlier defined in three types of amortization. One is that tool cost, what we want to pay to the supplier, is also paid through equal amount. So our understanding of amortization is that
Okay.
we are supposed to pay some tool cost to the suppliers,
Right.
which we are paying to that part price. We are adding it into part price and paying it to the supplier. It is called amortization.
Right.
And third point, what you have said is that you are also saying that interest is paid to the is also charged as a amortization. So then again there is one confusion. When you are charging interest as a separate line entry or line item to the EA, so why it should be a part of amortization?
Okay, no, I did not mention Vidur about interest. I mentioned about repayment of the loan.
Okay, I agree.
Okay,
Repayment of the loan.
All right. Okay. No problem. So now the first point, you have given the advance and to the supplier. Supplier is adjusting that advance against the future supplies is an amortization. We agree on that. Is that right?
No, I have not given advance to the supplier. I have asked supplier to make the tool with his money,
right,
which I am paying, say, for next 1,000 numbers.
That is also okay.
Added in a part price.
Yeah, it's okay. So both ways, that is also right and this is also right. Both are amortization. Are you with me, Vidur? So ये जो आप कह रहे हो,
that I understood.
Yeah.
But how that tangible, intangible asset, what you are talking about?
I'm coming.
Patent, design and logo.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So on first point we have agreement.
Yes.
Second point we have agreement.
But how it is getting charged? That first point, how it is getting charged into this?
Yeah. Okay. But do we have agreement that repayment of loan is also amortization?
Yes, I do agree.
Okay, good. Let's come to the third point. Now, please understand, every term has to be used in the given context. Now, we are not talking in the context of anything else. We are talking in the context of financial reporting. In the context of financial reporting, as I said, and I'm repeating once again, there are two kinds of assets that we use: tangible assets and the intangible assets. Now, tangible assets, अगर हम use कर रहे हैं, उसकी value कम हो रही है. The reduction in the value of tangible assets, उसको हमने नाम दिया financial reporting में, accounting standards में, उसको नाम दिया है depreciation का. So that is referred as depreciation. In the business, whether it is Tata Motors or Hindustan Unilever or ArcelorMittal or Maruti or Honda, all companies all over the globe, you also use the intangible assets. Let's say, for example, Tata Motors. Now, Tata Motors is in the business of making vehicles. So, for making vehicles, what Tata Motors is doing, Tata Motors is spending a lot of money on research and development. So, by spending a lot of money on research and development, they come out with a design for new models of vehicles. So, please pay attention. So, what Tata Motors has done, Tata Motors has spent 50 crore on the development of a design for a new four-wheeler. Okay, so this 40 crore which is spent by Tata Motors on designing a new vehicle, it is an intangible asset. Okay, it is an intangible asset. Now, this design, once Tata Motors start using this design and start producing vehicles as per this design, Tata Motors is going to start getting the commercial benefit because वो गाड़ी बनाएंगे, बेचेंगे और पैसा आएगा. Now, this design that the Tata Motor has developed, please pay attention, does it have infinite life or it has a finite life? invariably a design will have a finite life. Why finite life? Because in today's world, it is difficult to believe that one design, one model that you produce and you can keep on producing it for infinity. No, today the customers' preferences are changing every now and then. So let's say Tata Motors will sit down and say, discuss, and they'll say this design, this new design that we have developed, we can use it for how many years? And they will of course will have to take all the factors into account, and let's say they collectively they come to the point कि 5 साल के बाद ये डिज़ाइन अपने को फेज आउट करना पड़ेगा, 5 साल के बाद ये डिज़ाइन चलने वाला नहीं है, 5 साल के बाद अगर इस डिज़ाइन की गाड़ी बनाएंगे तो कोई खरीदेगा नहीं. So what is the life of this design? Life of this design whether is 5 years. What is the cost that you have incurred on designing on this design? You have incurred a cost of 50 crore. So 50 crore is the value of this design, which is intangible asset, and the life of this intangible asset is 5 years. So you will write it off, this design, over a period of next 5 years. And how will you write it off? So 50 crore divided by 5. So you will write off 10 crore, 10 crore, 10 crore. So at the end of 5th year, the value of the design will become 0. And this 10 crore that you are charging on this design to your P&L is referred as amortization. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Very good.
I got that.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks.
Sir, Atul Sharma this side.
Yes, Atul.
Suppose whatever we had invested 50 crores and we have taken a loan on this amount,
Yeah.
50 crores.
Mm-hmm.
And suppose we taken a loan of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So principal amount will come into this and depreciation and amortization, and interest one part will go into the finance cost. Is it
Right.
so?
Right. Yes. Yes. Very good. Very true, Atul. Very right. Absolutely. So ये जो आपने लोन लिया है उसकी जो इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट होगी that will come in the finance cost. Very true.
And the principal go into the depreciation and amortization.
ओके नाउ वो हम आई एम गोइंग टू कम टू द बैलेंस शीट, तो वो पोर्शन बैलेंस शीट के टाइम पे डिस्कस कर लेंगे. इज दैट ओके फॉर यू अतुल? है ना? ओके गुड गुड.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
ओके वेरी गुड.
Pramod, that
Okay, sir.
Excel sheet which you are showing,
Mm-hmm.
particular.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have one question with reference to that one. There are two ways to calculate the difference.
Can you just
explain that with
can you just mention your name once again please?
Yeah, Mukund.
मुकुंद. ओके सो मुकुंद, मैं क्या करता हूँ अभी, मैं थोड़ा आगे बढ़ता हूँ ये P&L पे, और वो एक्सेल शीट पे मैं वापस आने वाला हूँ. उस समय मैं आपकी एक क्वेरी ले लूंगा. इज दैट ओके?
Okay.
है ना? ओके सो बट नॉट टू वरी, वी विल डेफिनेटली टेक योर क्वेरी एट दैट टाइम. सो देन यू हैव अदर एक्सपेंसेस. नाउ प्लीज पे अटेंशन, व्हाट अदर एक्सपेंसेस कंप्राइजेस ऑफ. अब देखिए बहुत सिंपल सी बात है, ये जो P&L है जैसा कि हमने पहले डिस्कस किया, P&L में क्या क्या आएगा? इनकम आएगी, आ गई. और क्या क्या आएगा? एक्सपेंसेस आएंगे. कौन कौन से एक्सपेंसेस आएंगे? वो सारे एक्सपेंसेस जो कि एक कंपनी करती है, वो सारे के सारे एक्सपेंस ये P&L में आएंगे, आने ही पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि अगर नहीं आएंगे तो फिर P&L आपका बराबर दिखेगा नहीं, बताएगा नहीं. सो कॉस्ट ऑफ मटेरियल हो गया, एम्प्लॉय की कॉस्ट हो गई, फाइनेंस की कॉस्ट हो गई, डेप्रिसिएशन की कॉस्ट हो गई. डेप्रिसिएशन इज द कॉस्ट ऑफ द यूज ऑफ द एसेट्स. एंड अदर एक्सपेंसेस में क्या आएगा? अदर एक्सपेंसेस, प्लीज पे अटेंशन, विल कंप्राइज ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंसेस, general expenses, selling expenses, marketing expenses, administrative expenses. So this figure that you see here of other expenses, this includes all the administrative expenses, all the expenses other than those which I have already covered in the top, and that is your other expenses. So what you do from the total revenue here, you will minus the total of all the expenses that you see on your screen, and what you get in your hand is known as total revenue less total expenses. So this is the figure that you are getting. So this is your, in a way, is your profit. Now since we are discussing, though these items do not appear in every P&L, but since we are trying to understand P&L from the long-term point of view, because this is my endeavor and this is my aim and objective, that after this discussion you should be able to read any P&L of any company without any problem. So you will also see an item after minusing all the expenses from your revenue. You will also see an item called prior period and exceptional items. So what is prior period items? Very simple. Accounting है, and a company like Tata Motors, Bajaj Auto, Hindustan Unilever, ArcelorMittal, Maruti, Honda, Infosys, TCS, these companies are huge in size. So it is always possible sometime that certain expenses or certain income which occurred in the last year, but for some reason could not be accounted in the last year, but they have to be accounted for. So if they have to be accounted for, are they the expenses of the current year? Answer is no. If they are not expenses or the income of the current year, then they will not come in this portion, a top portion. Where they will come? They will come as a separate line item, which is prior period and exceptional item. So one is prior period, यानी कि पुराने साल गए सालों का खर्चा या कोई इनकम जो उस समय अकाउंट फॉर होने से रह गई, वो अब यहाँ पे अकाउंट फॉर करेंगे एज प्रायर पीरियड इनकम और एक्सपेंस. एंड देन यू गॉट अ एक्सेप्शनल आइटम. So what is an exceptional item? There is a fire in the plant and that has resulted in the loss of the inventory or loss of assets. So this is an exceptional item. Can I take it somewhere here? If I take it somewhere here, it will distort my profitability. Why it will distort my profitability? Because this is an exceptional item. It does not happen every now and then. It is once in a while. So any of such thing that may have happened will figure here. Now in this company, you can see 00. यानी कि इस company में दोनों साल में ऐसा कुछ item नहीं था, and that is why they have kept it 00. I have covered it here because so as to give you conceptual understanding about what is prior period item and what is exceptional item. So then you have profit before extraordinary items, and then you have something called extraordinary item. Now what is extraordinary item? So please understand, Tata Motors is in the business of making cars or making vehicles. So the income that Tata Motors will generate is from the sale of vehicles, sales, service and the parts is the ordinary income. But there is something which can happen, that Tata Motors had sold a particular asset for whatever reason, and on the sale of that asset, Tata Motors has earned some income. Now this income which Tata Motors has earned on the sale of an asset, it is not its ordinary income. This is extraordinary income. So any such income or expense will be presented in the profit and loss as a separate line item as extraordinary item. And please understand, and this is what you must understand very clearly, if I include extraordinary item or exceptional item or prior period items here, it will distort my profitability. Why it will distort my profitability? Because I am incorporating something in my income and expenses which are not ordinarily, which do not happen ordinarily. And that is the reason the accounting standards all over the world stipulate that extraordinary items, prior period items, exceptional items have to be disclosed in the P&L separately, and that is how you will do it. Then what you get is profit before tax, and it is from the profit before tax you will minus your tax, and when you minus your tax, so you have the you get the net profit or the net loss. So अगर आपकी इनकम ज़्यादा है और बाकी सारे खर्चेज वगैरह माइनस करने के बाद प्रॉफिट बचता है, देन यू विल पे टैक्स and then you will have a net profit which is after tax. लेकिन अगर आपकी इनकम कम है, खर्चा आपके कवर नहीं हो रहे हैं, तो टैक्स का तो सवाल ही पैदा नहीं होता, because tax will happen only when you earn profit. If you don't earn profit, you don't pay tax. You pay tax only when you earn profit, and therefore you will have a loss figure coming here. So this is, friends, understanding of profit and loss from the point of view of reporting to the shareholders and other stakeholders. ये एक चीज और याद रखिए, because what we are going to do tomorrow we are going to study together Tata Motors financial analysis methodology for its vendors, as I mentioned yesterday, which has got many of these terms, the profitability ratio, liquidity ratio, solvency ratio, interest coverage ratio, net debt equity ratio. Now all that we can calculate when we understand this profit and loss. So for calculating all the parameters as per the Tata Motors financial analysis methodology, for calculating all those parameters, we will need figures from P&L. So unless and until we know what is given in the P&L, we will not be able to do the financial analysis as per the Tata Motors methodology. And that is the objective number one behind understanding this profit and loss. And objective number two, it is going to open so many answers to so many questions. सो ऐसा नहीं है कि ये P&L पढ़ के आपको खाली टाटा मोटर्स के वेंडर्स की फाइनेंशियल एनालिसिस ही करने को आएगा. नो, टुमारो इन केस यू वांट टू मेक इन्वेस्टमेंट इन अ कंपनी शेयर, यू कैन स्टडी दिस एंड बाय यूजिंग योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग यू वुड बी एबल टू टेक अ गुड डिसीजन in terms of to make investment in that company or not to make investment in that company. Let's say for example, if tomorrow you have to take a decision about a new customer, so whether you should enter in that new customer or you should not entertain that new customer, how would you figure it out? By looking at the profit and loss statement. So friend, this is how we look at the profit and loss statement from the perspective of the shareholders and the stakeholders. Now we will go to the next step, and now we will...
So just 1 minute. Second last row, can you explain second last row?
Yeah, ma'am, can you please mention your name?
Dipali.
Dipali, okay. Yes, Dipali. Please tell me, what's your query?
The second last row, the deferred tax expenses. Can you just explain that?
Yes. दीपाली, अगर आपको याद होगा तो हमने थोड़ी देर पहले एक्सेल शीट में वो जो वर्कआउट किया था कि इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन और कंपनीज एक्ट का डेप्रिसिएशन. तो नाउ आई कैन टेक यू टू द एक्सेल शीट and explain with the help of that Excel sheet as to what is the meaning of current tax and what is the meaning of deferred tax. Okay, so let's go back and Mukund, I think you also had a question on the Excel sheet, so you also can please raise your question that time.
And another question I just want to have that with reference to this prior period and that exceptional items which you are talking. So how that extraordinary
Mukund,
things are differentiating.
Let me just take one by one. Just make a note of this question with you, and I will take that question. Don't worry. So let me just take the Excel sheet and explain, and then we will. Okay, are you able to see the Excel sheet? Deepali, do you see Excel sheet on your screen?
It looks like it's coming, sir. It's getting loaded.
Okay.
Not yet.
Has it come?
Not yet.
I think I need to load it, sir.
It's getting loaded? Okay, alright. Okay, we can wait for a few seconds, no issue.
No, it's not wait. You have to.
Okay.
You have to share it again.
Right, alright, okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Dipali, अब देखो इसमें क्या है कि आपका PBT कितना है? 200 lakhs है ना? So 200 lakhs. So your PBT for the year is 200 lakhs. Now, this PBT, profit before tax of 200 lakhs, ये आपका ये साल का प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स है. तो रियली स्पीकिंग अगर हमारे पास में इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन नहीं होता था तो हमारी टैक्स कितनी होती थी? Our tax on this PPT would have been
180 plus 30.
Yeah. So our tax would have been 50 lakhs, 50 crores. Are you with me? अगर
understood. This is you are taking place IT depreciation you are taking as a deferred tax, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. That's
Yeah,
correct. That's
okay.
correct. That's correct.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good, Deepali. Yes, Mukund, you also had some question on this.
So what I want to say with reference to this Company Act and IT Act particularly, both the methods is used by the supplier particularly, but I'm not able to understand how they leverage it particularly over a period actually, what the benefit they will get it.
देखो ये मुकुंद उसमें ऐसा है कि लेवरेजिंग का जहाँ तक सवाल है, एक चीज़ बहुत क्लियरली समझ लीजिए कि जब भी आप whenever you are incurring any new capex, whenever a company is incurring new capex, the company has got a temporary tax benefit. Please pay attention. Why do I say temporary tax benefit? Because initial years में आपको जो इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन है, चूंकि वो रेट ज़्यादा है तो और रिटर्न डाउन वैल्यू पे होता है वो, सो इनिशियली आपका जो इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन है वो ज़्यादा होता है, तो इसीलिए इनिशियल ईयर्स में आपके जो टैक्सेबल प्रॉफिट होते हैं वो डिप्रेस हो जाते हैं, and that is why you end up paying smaller amount of tax in the initial years. But remember, your income tax depreciation will keep on tapering off. So ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले साल में, जैसे कि यहाँ पर मैं पहले साल में लिया है इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन 30 करोड़ का लिया और दूसरे साल में वो घट के कितना हो गया, दूसरे साल में वो घट के हो गया आपका 21 करोड़, है ना, 21 करोड़। तो अब करते करते क्या होगा कि वो एक टाइम ऐसा आएगा कि वो जीरो हो जाएगा, और जीरो हो जाएगा, पर कंपनी तो वो एसेट्स को यूज करते रहने वाली है, तो कंपनी तो प्रॉफिट कमाते रहने वाली है, तो आगे आने वाले सालों में कंपनी विल एंड अप पेइंग मोर टैक्स. So this is the only leveraging. The only leveraging that you have because of capex is the cash flow benefit, not the profit benefit. Cash flow benefit यानी कि because of capex you end up paying smaller amount of tax during the initial years. और सीधी सी बात है, इनिशियल ईयर्स में आपने खर्चा किया है, कैपिटल में खर्चा किया है, तो आपका कैश आउटफ्लो ज़्यादा हो गया, तो उस समय पे आपको कैश की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है, तो अगर उसमें आपका टैक्स बच जाता है तो आपके हाथ में ज़्यादा कैश अवेलेबल है. उसके बाद जब आप प्रॉफिट बनाना शुरू करते हो, सो यू हैव स्टार्टेड अर्निंग प्रॉफिट, है ना, तो स्लोली यू आर एक्यूमुलेटिंग मोर कैश विद यू इन एनी केस. सो बाद में अगर वो टैक्स का रेट बढ़ भी गया तो आपको उसकी उतनी चिंता नहीं होती है. एंड दिस इज द ओनली लेवरेजिंग दैट यू डू because of the capexes and nothing else. Please, all of you, please remove from your mind this particular conception that because of capex you save on tax. No, because of capex you only save on the cash flow. Because income tax depreciation is higher in the initial period, you end up paying a smaller amount of tax. सब्सिक्वेंटली देखो, प्लीज पे अटेंशन, अभी क्या हो रहा है, ये पहले साल में क्या हुआ, कंपनीज एक्ट का डेप्रिसिएशन 10 है और इसका इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन 30 है. और सेकेंड ईयर में कंपनीज एक्ट का डेप्रिसिएशन 10 है और इनकम टैक्स का 21 है. ये अब एक पॉइंट ऐसा आएगा कि इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन ज़्यादा होगा और इनकम टैक्स का, कंपनीज एक्ट का डेप्रिसिएशन ज़्यादा होगा और इनकम टैक्स का डेप्रिसिएशन कम होगा. सो दैट मीन्स अभी जो आपको बेनिफिट है वो बेनिफिट सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर्स में रिवर्स होना शुरू हो जाएगा. सो यू गेट ओनली टेम्पररी बेनिफिट एंड विच इज द कैश फ्लो बेनिफिट एंड नॉट द टैक्स.
It is like encouraging you to go for capital.
Exactly, absolutely. So subsequently जब आपको लगेगा रे टैक्स अमाउंट बहुत बढ़ रही है ना, and if the market is good for you, there is a good demand for your product, so then what you do, you again do some more capex. So when you do some more capex, again you get more depreciation, so again your profits will depress, so again you will have, so this is how you can be in a cycle. The only thing is you cannot be in this cycle forever. Why? Because the economy runs into its own cycle. So it's not that economy is always booming. There are times when the economy is in slump. So it's not that every time you are running over capacity. There are many times you have built the capacity, there is no demand, so you are running under capacity. So that those factors also, as a businessman, one has to take into account that you should not end up building excess capacity, that there is no demand for that capacity. And please remember, it is disastrous. It is disastrous. You have built the capacity, there is no demand. Because you have built the capacity, you have borrowed loan. You have borrowed loan, you are paying interest. You are paying interest and you have to repay the loan also. But because the market is in a bad shape, you are not generating enough profit. So you run into a trouble where you have to pay the interest to the banks, you have no money. You have to repay the loan, you have no money. And those calculations you have to make before you take any capex decision. So your capex decision, please remember, a lot of people just make this mistake. So their capex decisions are driven only by the tax saving, and that is where they go wrong. So they get into trouble. That is what it is. So Mukund, I hope that answers your query, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
very
got
good.
the clarity.
Okay, good.
But again, just an extension to this one particularly.
Mhm.
So when you say with reference to Company Act and that IT Act point of view, so when I'm doing any capex investment, I'm borrowing the money from bank. Okay.
Right.
So I'm in both the situation. What I can say, the life of the tool is a cost. That machinery or the investment is almost common, 10 years is there.
Okay.
And if I have borrowed the loan for 7 years, but with this income tax route, I just what I can say, the depreciated the amount within only 5 years. Whether that is a permissible means I will
absolutely permissible. Means in
the income tax account I will show that asset get what I can say the 5% or we say 0% or 1% WDV पे आके रुकेगा and still I am paying a loan on his principal amount.
Absolutely no problem.
I have not paid the amount to the bank.
Yeah. See, both these Mukund, that's a good question. Both these things are completely different. Loan that they're completely different. Loan that you have taken for funding that asset is one transaction. That asset has come into your factory and you are using it for the production, that's a different transaction. So both are completely different transaction. Loan that you have taken is a liability. On that you are paying interest. So depending on कि आपने बैंक से लोन कितने समय का लिया है. देखो, asset life can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Asset life can be whatever it is. Loan that you are taking from the bank, the loan tenure can be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years or whatever. So the tenure of the loan has got nothing to do with the life of the asset. And therefore, the depreciation on the asset will go on independently on one hand, and the interest on the loan that you are paying will go on independently on the other hand. सो एक 5 साल का आपने लोन लिया, 5 साल का पीरियड खत्म हो गया, लोन पूरा चुक गया, वो चैप्टर क्लोज हो गया. एसेट आपके पास में अभी भी बिजनेस में है, आप उसको यूज कर रहे हो, यू विल कीप ऑन चार्जिंग डेप्रिसिएशन.
बट प्रमोद जी, आई एम आस्किंग द उल्टा वाला कंप्लीटली. मेरे पास WDV वैल्यू उसकी नलिफाई हो चुकी है. आई हैव व्हाट आई कैन से फास्ट डिप्रिशिएटेड.
ओके.
एंड स्टिल मेरा लोन चल रहा है. सो मेरे बुक में जो वैल्यू रहेगी उसकी तो वो तो कम रहेगी ऑफ दैट एसेट.
राइट.
बट फाइनेंस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू और फ्रॉम पर्टिकुलरली बैंक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, अगर उसकी वैल्यूएशन तो ज्यादा ही रहेगी ना.
ओके. नाउ ओके, दैट्स अ गुड पॉइंट. सी, आई अंडरस्टैंड. अब देखो, ऐसे केस में आपका ये डर है कि बैंक ने मुझे लोन दिया 100 करोड़ का, है ना, और वो लोन है 10 साल के लिए, और ये जो एसेट है इसकी लाइफ है 5 साल की. तो आपका सवाल ये है कि क्या ये सस्टेनेबल है? Theoretically ये सस्टेनेबल है, पर रिमेंबर, अ बैंक विल नेवर गिव यू लोन फॉर 10 years when the bank knows the life of the asset is only 5 years. Bank will never do it. If at all they do it, they will ask you for your personal guarantee, this guarantee, that guarantee, and mortgage and so on and so forth. So they will, ठीक है, ये आपकी लाइफ की एसेट 5 साल की लाइफ 5 साल की है, तो लेकिन आप 10 साल के लिए लोन मांग रहे हैं, तो गिव अस मोर सिक्योरिटी. So they will ask your personal guarantee, or they will take a mortgage on other assets of yours. So by doing this kind of adjustment, they can still accommodate you if they feel that your project is viable, workable, genuine. ऐसा कर सकते हैं. और आपने गारंटी दे दी, आपने बाकी और कोई एसेट उनके साथ में प्लेज कर दी, मॉर्गेज कर दी, बैंक को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बैंक को क्या चाहिए? बैंक को सिक्योरिटी चाहिए. आप लोग बैंक को इंटरेस्ट भर रहे हो टाइम से, रिपेमेंट जा रहा है टाइम से, बैंक आपको कुछ नहीं बोलेगी. एक बार आपने रिपेमेंट रोक दिया, इंटरेस्ट नहीं भरा, देन बैंक विल कम बैक टू यू. एंड टुडे यू नो द इंसॉल्वेंसी कोड, सो द बैंक विल फाइल एन एप्लीकेशन एंड डिसलॉज यू फ्रॉम द कंपनी.
Vidul here, just
yes,
can
Vidul.
you explain again that deferred tax? I have not understood.
Okay, Vidali, would you like to explain this? Yes, please go ahead.
If you see on the Excel sheet, PBT was 200 and 210 was the PBT, right? We are supposed to pay tax on 210, but because of this IT Act, this 30 lakh or whatever it is, we had got less a deduction of tax. So taxable profit was 180.
Correct. Madam, your voice is not there.
In place of 210, it was 180. So this is a kind of tax we would be paying later when the IT tax amount will go zero, right? For first year it was 30.
Madam, your voice is not there at all. Your voice is cracking.
Yeah, just a minute.
It is audible.
Is it okay?
I think it is audible to us. I think we have network issue.
I also could hear it. I could also hear it.
Ideally, we should pay tax on 210 if you see on the Excel sheet as per the...
Correct.
Because we have a kind of 30% depreciation, we are paying less 30% in the first year.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So this 30 is the deferred tax which we would be paying later when as per the IT Act, this WDV will become reduced to zero.
Correct.
This is called, we are paying tax but not now. We would be paying after say 4 years or 3 years.
Very good.
So that is called deferred tax.
Very good, Deepali, very good. And let me just supplement what you have said for the benefit of Vidur. देखो Vidur, अभी मेरा जो प्रॉफिट है वो 200 लाख का है. This is what is my PBT. And assuming that there is no concept of income tax depreciation. There is no concept of income tax depreciation. So how much tax will I pay? I will pay tax on this profit which is going to be 50 crore, isn't it? So 50 crore is the profit that I am, 50 crore is my tax liability if the income tax depreciation was not to be there. Since income tax depreciation is there, and that is why how much is the tax liability that I am getting? I am getting a tax liability of 45 crore. Are you with me? So that means
yes.
मेरे साल का जो total tax है वो कितना है? 50 crore है. That is my total tax is 50 crore. इसमें से current कितना है? 45 है. और जो डिफरेंस है 5 करोड़ वो डेफर्ड टैक्स है. जैसा कि दीपाली ने कहा, वो 5 करोड़ का टैक्स कब भरने को आएगा? जब मेरा डेप्रिसिएशन अंडर द इनकम टैक्स जीरो हो जाएगा. दैट टाइम आई विल नीड टू पे इट इन फ्यूचर, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज नोन एज डेफर्ड टैक्स एक्चुअली.
So it will improve your cash flow.
It will improve your cash flow. Yes, absolutely.
Like deferred tax we will be paying every next year. Deferred tax should we pay every next year or
depend देखो नेक्स्ट ईयर में क्या
आफ्टर 5 years
या सो नेक्स्ट ईयर के जो प्रॉफिट्स होंगे उसके हिसाब से नेक्स्ट ईयर का प्रॉफिट डिसाइड होगा.
I mean, deferred tax should be pay every year of the preceding year or
yeah. So deferred tax you will be payable in future, and that is why it is known as deferred tax.
But here this is the tax. But this is the tax which I will pay when my investment complete recovery will happen. So afterwards that will happen, particularly. So I have to have the entry of deferred tax then.
Yeah, correct.
And when WDV is zero or something, say 5% as per the IT Act, then only we will pay this deferred tax.
Yeah. Right. So देखो, just pay attention. Today you have a deferred tax, and I'm sure you will understand it very easily. Today you have a deferred tax. You know why? Because your depreciation under the Companies Act is less, under the income tax it is more. So that is why you have a deferred tax, because your taxable profit is reducing. As the years pass, you will come to a situation where your depreciation under the income tax is going to be less, where you will have more taxable profit, and that time you will start paying this deferred tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is like left to the company to do, or is it like only when you say WDV is a certain 5% of the this value.
Can you
some rule is there, or
can you just mention your name, please? Can you please?
Murari.
Okay, yeah, okay. देखो मुरारी जी ऐसा है उसमें nothing is left to the company when law is applicable. Nothing is left to the company. It has to be as per the income tax and as per the Companies Act. So it is possible that next year you did some more capex. So if you did some more capex, maybe you will have more deferred tax next year also. So next जो future में क्या होगा, that will depend on the future situation. But principally, as I said, the day you have more depreciation under the Companies Act, less depreciation under the Income Tax Act, the year in which you will have that situation, in that year you will start paying the deferred tax. So that is the principle you can just bear in your mind.
So Anand, here does the deferred tax means today we have got tax liability, but Company Act and Income Tax Act provisions are giving us a facility. You pay the partial tax now and balance you pay later.
Yeah, that's exactly,
Yeah,
Anand.
like this,
Very true, Anand. I think you have hit on the head of the nail. That is the aim and objective behind allowing the companies higher depreciation when they are incurring capexes, so that the companies.
This also help. It will also, Vidul here, it will also improve your cash flow, because when you are investing more, you should be given some supporting hand or hand holding on a cash flow generation.
Yeah.
So that will play the role in that fashion. Now it is extremely clear.
Absolutely.
Basically facilitating the cash flow. Instead of paying the tax now, you pay later.
Right. Absolutely
The
correct.
government will have some interest also on that deferred tax, because
No interest. No interest.
No interest.
Nitin Datar here, Pramod sir.
Yes, Nitin.
Basically, this is an incentive scheme to the corporate that they should keep on doing the capex after a certain year to enjoy the deferred tax benefit.
Nitin, that is what exactly is the purpose of the government of India. And because देखो government have the responsibility of managing the economy, and economy can be managed only when there is more production, there is more services, there are more agriculture. Since we are talking in the context of the corporate, the production. So when there is more production, there is more GDP. When there is more GDP, government has got more resources. The economy is becoming stronger. So it is the government's responsibility to encourage the economic development. तो उसके लिए government gives all kinds of incentives. So depreciation is one of them. इसके अलावा और भी सारे benefits हैं, but our focus is on the appraisal of the suppliers and looking from that perspective. So the depreciation is one such tool that helps you to save tax when you are save on tax, and improve your cash flow during the initial years.
So we can say, Nitin Datar again.
Yes,
here.
Nitin.
So we can say that wherever there is a higher deferred tax, he is in early cycle of capex.
Yeah, I think what you are saying is absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So Anand, here just we go back to that Excel sheet. It means we are liable to pay, any company is liable to pay the income tax or tax as per the WDV written down in the Company Act only. Income tax is facilitating them to defer some amount of that tax by way of having higher depreciation. The tax amount is payable.
Right.
By income tax, we are only deferring the payment of the tax to the extent of 5 crore. Here is the calculation.
Yeah, correct.
The normal the tax was coming 50 crore, but
Yeah.
by deferment we are able to defer by 5 crore.
Absolutely. Very true. Very true.
Sir, one more query. Suppose you have taken a benefit of this same on the deferred tax, and now after a few years you sell the asset. So you have taken the benefit of the tax, and you have sold the asset. Then that will come, and that profit will come under extraordinary item, kya?
Yeah, so if you are selling an asset and making a profit, it is not your ordinary activity. This is an extraordinary activity. So it will be part of the
इंसिडेंट रेज किया है लॉगिन आईडी क्रिएशन के लिए.
extraordinary activity. Dipali. So
Understood.
your point is right, Deepali. What you're saying is absolutely right. Okay, friends. Now let's look at how to analyze profit and loss for the purpose of decision making.
Pramod sir, one question.
Please,
Like we have calculated the life of the
please mention your name.
Vinod Chaturvedi.
Okay,
so
yes,
somebody like our supplier is saying the life of this asset is 10 years. We are saying no, we will calculate on 15 years. So is any rule to decide the life of the capex, or whatever we say, or whatever supplier say, or whatever manufacturer say, we can take it for calculation purpose or some other purpose?
No, देखो, Vinod, please understand one thing. What is the purpose of financial statements? The purpose of financial statements, whether it is balance sheet or P&L or the cash flow statement, the purpose is that these statements give true and fair picture about the business. And that is why there is a Companies Act and there are accounting standards. Now these accounting standards and Companies Act, they have been formulated for different purposes, and one of the purpose is कि जो भी कंपनी अकाउंट्स बनाए तो वो इस तरह से बनाए ताकि उसमें जो इन्फॉर्मेशन हो वो रिलायबल हो, डिपेंडेबल हो, एडहॉक ना हो. तो इसके लिए कंपनीज एक्ट में डेप्रिसिएशन की शेड्यूल है. तो आपको नॉर्मली डेप्रिसिएशन उसके हिसाब से चार्ज करना है. जैसे कि मैंने पहले कहा, अगर आपकी कंपनी का कोई एक्सेप्शनल सिचुएशन है एंड विच यू हैव टू जस्टिफाई, तो अगर आपको लगता है कि एक इक्विपमेंट दैट यू हैव, एन एसेट दैट यू हैव, फॉर व्हाटएवर रीजन द लाइफ ऑफ दैट एसेट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट इज प्रोवाइडेड इन द कंपनीज एक्ट, एंड you want to adopt some other life, you can do that, provided you are able to justify the reason for it and convince your auditor. If you are able to convince your auditor, he would let you do that, but you will have to make a disclosure in your books that this is the deviation that you have done. So this is how you can do. But remember, that is only an exception. It's not a rule. The rule is go as per the Companies Act.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so now let me ask you this question, friends. Profit for the purpose of decision making. So how will you define profit? All of you. What is profit? What is profit? All of you. Murari ji?
The money which we can take it our money, our home, that is the profit.
Okay. Shailesh, what is profit? Rupesh?
Profit is income excess of expenditure.
Okay, very good, very good. Vidur, what is profit?
So we have accounted for all the expenses and whatever money has left in the business. Also business or so money generated by the business.
Okay.
By catering all other expenses, and what is balance is the profit.
Okay. Atul, what is profit? How do you define profit? Deepali, how do you define profit?
Or you can say the return on the investment what we have done.
Okay, return on investment what you have done. Deepali, how would you define?
If in simple language I can tell you, sir, revenue minus expenses, if it is coming in plus number, then it is a profit.
Absolutely. So friends, let me tell you, all that you have said, that you have hit on the head of the nail, as I always say. So जो आपने बताया है, the definition of profit, that definition is absolutely correct. The only thing is, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to performance evaluation, and please remember, as part of the management team of the organization, we are more responsible for value creation, we are more responsible for risk management, we are more responsible for the performance delivery and the evaluation. And therefore, other than the definition that all of you have given, profit can be understood in many ways. So profit can be understood as gross profit. Profit can be understood as EBITDA. And I'm sure in all your communications from the top, you must be getting to hear many times the focus on EBITDA, 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 EBITDA. Everybody talks about EBITDA. Profit can be understood as EBIT, earning before interest and tax. Profit can be understood as EBT, earning before tax. Profit can be understood as EAT, earning after tax. Profit can be understood as retained profit or retained earnings. Profit can be understood as cash profit, and profit can be understood as EPS, earning per share. And I am sure friends, you must be wondering now कि अब तक हमने सोचा था कि हमारा प्रॉब्लम छोटा सा है और वो ये कि प्रॉफिट क्या है हमको इतना ही समझना है, बट विद सो मेनी टाइप्स ऑफ प्रॉफिट our life is really going to be complicated. And let me tell you friends, not at all. Not at all. All these terms that you see on the screen as far as the definition of profit is concerned are so simple and so easy to understand. And that is what we will do now. I'm not sure how many of you have okay, so let's look at the how do we understand the all these terms. How do we understand कि gross profit क्या है, EBITDA क्या है, EBIT क्या है, EBT क्या है, EAT क्या है, और उन सब के meaning क्या है, right? Let us understand them together. So the first thing that you see on your screen is, now this is, remember, ये जो हम discuss कर रहे हैं profit and loss statement, this is internal. It does not go to the shareholders. It is not published for the benefit of all the stakeholders. This profit and loss is need to be understood internally by the company management for the purpose of taking different decisions. So the first is line that you see is your sales, and sales is also referred as top line. And I'm sure you can understand why it is referred as top line. No rocket science, because this is the line which is at the top of the statement, and that is why sales is also referred as top line. So when somebody is saying that how is the top line of Tata Motors, what he is really asking, he is asking as to how much the sales of Tata Motors. Now from the figure of sales, when you minus the material cost and the manufacturing expenses, both these together, what you get in your hand is known as gross profit. तो आपने सेल्स के फिगर में से मटेरियल कॉस्ट को माइनस कर दिया, आपने सेल्स के फिगर में से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट को माइनस कर दिया. अब आपके हाथ में क्या बचा? आपके हाथ में बचा व्हाट इज योर ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट.